Bump Love is brought to you by
Use your hands to nurture, not to destroy a child's life. Call toll-free line 116 to report any cases of child violence in your community.
Hello and welcome back to Bump Love. We continue our conversation on physical violence, and we've discovered that physical violence is typically perpetrated by caregivers, even parents in our homes. These are people who are meant to show love, to show protection, to offer security, and yet sadly we are inflicting pain on our children. And joining us to try and understand why this is and how we can end it is a father of two girls. His name is Ignatius Tebukoza. He's a husband and a father of two lovely girls, and one of them is here with us today, so we are going to hear from her.
Yeah.
Just in case he's lying. So welcome to the show, Ignatius.
Thank you so much, and thank you for hosting me.
Lovely, and thank you for lending us your daughter. So you can't tell us lies.
No.
She's right here.
She's right here.
She's right here. Okay, our first question will be to you. How does the cultural expectation of what a man should be affect the way you discipline your children or even have a relationship with them?
Thank you. We can talk about what culture is and how we are expected to behave as fathers based on culture, and then I'll quickly link back to your question. I think any father is expected to groom, discipline, guide, and then offer things, ensure you have food and so on, and less of relationships. And yes, we are not expected to be relating too much with our children, keep a distance. Even before, if a child misbehaved in a home, they will say, you wait until your father
comes back.
Will show you.
That is so true.
Yes. And I think that's what we are expected to do culturally, but I'm not doing that as I raise my children. First of all, I'm not blessed with so many. I have just enough, so I have to take care of them very well. But to me, I want to do some of those things as the opposite. I want to bridge the gap between me and my children. I want them to be my friends. I want to be one of the first people they can think about in case of any challenge. So if there is anything they are struggling with, they should be able to open up. And I also want to put myself in a position where I should be able to provide answers, especially to girls. They have many questions, and I want to be there to provide these questions. So yes, as they grow, definitely they try to do things, they try out things. I think we are all parents, children like learning, and they do learn, but many times they learn in a wrong way. So we stand to guide them, to correct them. That's a responsibility we take on, but we have to do it the right way. I believe by talking to children, showing them the right thing to do is something that we should be doing as fathers, but in a humble way, not being a director or a soldier,
a tyrant.
Yes.
They start running away from you when they hear that.
Yes.
That is back.
For starters, I love that you're that kind of father, and we need more of those. But how does physical violence of a father or anyone expected to love and protect a child impact the children?
In many ways, and negatively impacts the child. First of all, you push this child away. If he has questions, decisions to make, they will never come back. They will never come to you to ask questions. I mean, you are supposed to be the right person to give them direction. You have this vision for your child.
Yes.
If you are violent, trust me, you have lost that. You lose the code, they will never come to you. As you mentioned, they will be running away. They will be dreading the time you are at home. You yourself, you also stop enjoying home. You go to the sitting room, everyone disappears. I mean, life becomes hell, even to you yourself to start with, and then you make life hard for the rest. Yes.
Iana, we want to find out from you as a child, right? If we don't beat you, what will work? Because we can beat you, you don't listen. Then when we are talking, you don't listen. So what is it that we can do to make you listen, hear, understand? Why is it that you are not listening? Anyway, what should we do?
I think the best thing to do is talk to us face to face. Then Like sometimes you can raise your voice so that the child can understand the point. Like daddy is saying, don't do this, and then child is like, yes, I will not do it again, and really take it to heart.
Oh, so we can raise our voices. It's okay. Just a syllable. Just a few decibels. Yeah? So you're saying having conversations with you face to face is important for you, and then you are allowing us some volume. We can just increase the volume, or we have to keep it low.
You can increase it sometimes so the child is just like, yes, mommy and daddy is serious.
Inserted there.
So even there are times we don't seem serious if we just talk.
When we just talk slowly.
Like, when you take it to a calming voice, so sometimes take it as a joke.
Oh, that's honest. Okay, which other ways? We had last week that we could take away some of your privileges. Like say, for example, if you're watching TV, we should be able to remove some of those privileges. We had that that's a good thing.
Actually, yes, because now, like, I don't know how to explain. Like, you're making the child softer and softer, which ends up making the child do bad things. So when you take away some of those privileges, it's like, yes, mom and daddy are really serious about
The
this
things
one.
have become serious. Ice cream, not going out. Okay. Any other ways you think that we can be able to communicate with you and resolve conflict with you that maybe you can let other parents know? Are there any other ways you can think of?
Also spending time with like the child, so you make a strong bond with the child, so the child can understand you more.
Oh, that's interesting.
You understand the child and the child understands you.
I like that. I like that. I quite like that. Actually, it reminds me of a phrase that I hear a lot nowadays, that you can't discipline what you have not taught. And I think that you teach your children good discipline when you spend time with them and create a bond with them. You keep talking about avoidance, and I think avoidance comes from I spend time with my child, I listen to them, I teach them good manners. That way we're not getting to the escalation of beating and slapping. Yeah, so good kudos to you, Ian.
Thank you, Ian.
Yeah.
Having conversations with children is very important. How does that help in raising really successful children?
I want to pick up from what she has said. Actually, I didn't know she was even noticing that, because I try as much as possible to be around. By the way, there are two things. There's being present and being around.
Oh, yeah.
I want to do both, but I want to be present. So being present is having the conversation that she's talking about. I knew I was doing that. I didn't know she was noticing. That's one thing actually we should do as parents. These young children are always watching. They see what we do. Yes, being around helps you create that bond, give direction, and actually be there in good and bad times, or good and hard times. Then when you come up and say this is not right, they will know, yes, it's not right, it's not comfortable for now, but it's the best thing for me. So being around, and yes, you are saying talking to them is good, really good.
Yeah.
I would agree.
So one of the, we were listening in the last episode, the evidence that had come out from the study that, fathers were perpetrators of violence against boys, and actually violence against boys was way higher than that of girls. And yet a father is a figure of security and protection and stability. So how do you think fathers in themselves, because they also watch as women, spank the living daylights out of children? I remember a statement someone used to say, I'm going to slap you so hard, I'm going to slap you and only leave you with heaven. I'm going to slap the hell out of you and only leave you with heaven, and fathers watch as mothers are also taking part. So how can fathers contribute to ending physical violence in homes?
They should provide guidance. One, we need to all understand, since the question is about fathers need to understand that violence produces no good thing in a child. And actually, we all know while growing up, without even referring to any book, we refer to ourselves. While growing up, we were beaten. We were abused in any way. But those things that we are beaten, the reason why we are beaten, those are the very things we would say, you have beaten me, now let me go and do it. Yes.
Yeah.
For us growing up, we used to have problems with climbing jambula trees, fene trees, and guava trees. And then it's one thing that's why we are beaten, because our parents never wanted us to fall down, which was a good thing. But they would counteract that with beating. They beat you today. As soon as your mother or father is out of the way, you go and climb, even when you know you are not going to get anything. It's like, let me go and climb this tree and see what they will do.
We'll see if she will beat me today.
So
She see me.
physical violence is not, actually any form of violence is not good. It doesn't bring out the best of the person, whether physical or emotional, because yes, you mentioned that boys suffer a lot of physical violence, which is true, but girls also suffer emotional or abusive violence. They abuse them a lot, which is not good.
So what are fathers going to do? Are they going to stop the woman who's maybe, are they the ones going to stop? Like, how do they do this? Because they're the ones with the least amount of time to spend with their children.
No.
Then they come in, they just only know how to slap because they have no relationship whatsoever. So how do you suggest fathers can stop physical? It's one thing to know it in your mind, but it's another thing to actually do it. Yeah.
I don't know how to put this, but the thing is, stopping is physically stopping. Restrain yourself. Know the repercussions. Yes, we are trained, or we are built up in a way that we have to express our disappointment or anger. Let's find different ways of doing that. There are many times actually she can tell you, I've had discussions with her, and she would end up crying because I'm not happy about whatever she's done. But just talking, she ends up crying. I think, to me, she would know it's not right. There are better ways of doing things, of telling this, communicating that your disappointment to the child, and then communicating the right thing for the child to do without beating. Let's know, even before we think about the legal things that can follow after beating a child or causing this physical violence. Yes, there is that. You can be sued. You can actually even lose your child. The government can take away this child.
In Uganda,
yes, yes. If you abuse your child, the child can be taken away. The government can take over and find a suitable home for a child, for your child. Yes. Only that we have these things are not yet implemented, but it is possible. According to law, it's possible. So if you go to the extreme, all those things can happen. But you don't have to go there. Keep love your family. Yes, there's one thing that always helps fathers. Start by even loving your wife. Express your love to your wife in the presence of the children. Then they will know that you also love them. Whatever you tell them to know is coming out of love. It's the good thing that they need.
So let's hear what Daddy says.
What are those things that he says that make you even cry?
Like, he talks to me. I don't know how he does it, actually. He talks to me, then it's in a way it really touches me, and then I realize what I did is very wrong, and then I end up crying.
And then you apologize.
How he does it.
I don't know how
I want to hear those words. Yeah, you tell us. How do you take her through that conversation? So
Yes. To start with, you help the child understand. For example, which example can I give? We've had so many in the house. Let me give the simple things like not doing house chores and so on.
That's
then,
a major one.
yes. Then you start from what it is. Many times we've struggled with the kitchen, really. Those utensils not taken care of in time and so on. I work with her, even with a sister. Ask, do you see anything wrong here? Then say, these days they would quickly say, but I was going to do it, because they know where you are going. But before, they would say, yes, I think these things were not supposed to be here. They were supposed to be washed, put in their right place. And then what happened? So they realized the wrong thing and what was needed to be done. And then show them it is their responsibility to do that, and then you would expect them to do it differently, or they are apologetic, they say sorry, and then they quickly do something about it.
So you
and
ask
of
them
course
what-
they also make promises. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And we continue from there. We are learning. Are you saying we are in school right now?
Yes.
Okay, so they realized it was a holiday. They didn't wash. Now, how do we go to that place where they start even crying?
Then you say, you air out your expectations. This is what I want you to do now. Wash these things. Let's continue to use the example. Let's wash these utensils right now in 15 minutes. Thereafter, you are going to do this. You are going to complete your homework. And because you didn't do your things in time, go and clean the veranda, the compound. And all. So there's some
there are some
kind of-
consequences.
Yes.
Also, you're not just talking.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and I'm curious to ask Iana. So Iana, we were talking about other ways that your parents can discipline you, and one of them is, well, conversation. The other is denying you privileges.
Yes.
What are some of those things that Papa would say, you're not going to do this and it would really, really hurt you?
Like a phone.
Oh, screen time.
Like they take away the phone for like, let's say a week.
A week.
Like
Okay.
for some time.
For some time.
And then you're like, what are my friends saying online now?
For more. Is there anything else?
And then there's also like not going out of the house. Like let's say you wanted to go for a birthday party. Like your friend invited you, then you're like, no, because you didn't do this and this and that, you won't go for the birthday party.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right. Thank you, Iana. So Dad, as we wrap up the show, what are some of those key things you think parents should know? And I feel like we've sort of touched on them, but as a way of summarizing, that you think they should know while they are raising their children, and that would then inform how they discipline their kids.
Yes. Thank you. The things that you should know and be practical about are keeping relationships, healthy relationships with your children. Keep it close. Try as much as possible to be a friend to your children. I know it's not easy, especially with the things that we do. Create time. Sometimes I know work is demanding. I no longer do this, but I used to even put them, I used to go a lot to the field, and I knew I didn't have time. But what I would do is to get both of them, get into the car. We go to the field for a week and a half. They see what I do. Of course, they carry their homework books and so on. So when I'm busy, they are also busy. I'm fortunate enough, I work among schools, so I would allow them to interact with other children in the different communities that I go to. So create that time. And then be firm. Clearly communicate the do's and the don'ts in the house. It is because that will help in aligning them. Yes, and creating those values. And of course, clearly, as they grow, I think at this moment we can determine the friends they associate
That
with.
they associate with.
One more. You know that with rights come responsibilities. As a child or with your siblings at home, which responsibilities do you hold so that you're not letting any physical violence come towards you, or you're not inciting it from anywhere, whether at school or home?
Well, like one study says something like, don't do this, don't touch that. You're supposed to listen to it. Like listen to him, because maybe there's a reason he has said that.
Yeah.
Like let's say he said don't eat this food, maybe he put poison in the food to kill the rat.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good
true.
one.
That's very true.
Okay, thank you, Iana. I hope all the children out there have heard. You need to listen and obey your parents so that we don't incite them to violence. But that's not the moral of the story. The moral of the story is physical violence against children is bad, and it has long-lasting negative effects on our children, like you have heard us share all week on Bump Love. Thank you so much, Papa Iana. Thank you so much, Iana, for coming and sharing with us what happens in your homes. I hope you do know now that you can resolve conflict or discipline your children without using violence. There are so many other ways. Just open your mind, people, and start talking to your children, but also build bonds with your children so that when you talk to them about the things that they have done wrong, they're able to listen to you and feel remorseful. We want them to cry. We want them to cry. No, we want them to be remorseful and to change their ways. So until next time, with love from Bump Love.
Bump Love was brought to you by
With her hands, she slaps me. He pushes me into the wall. They even pinch me where they know people won't see. I have bruises.
Use your hands to nurture, not to destroy a child's life. Call toll-free line 116 to report any cases of child violence in your community. This message is brought to you by Joining Forces Consortium with support from the European Union.